After 3 years of operation, the National Quality Framework for Education and Care Services in Australia is under review. Changes to the NQF will come about by changing the Education and Care Services Law or regulations. Public consultation sessions on proposed change options are now happening, and written submissions are due in mid-January. It's happened at a busy time of year. Community Childcare Cooperative would like to explore a few elements of the RIS that people may like to consider in their responses.
At Community Childcare Cooperative, we believe the National Quality Framework marks the most significant improvement in education and care services in recent years. But that's not a problem with the design of the system, the problem is with the implementation. We need to dedicate more efforts to implementation and not concern ourselves with the design. We need to separate out the two. We know that you're pretty short of time to absorb the details of the regulatory impact statement, so we'd like to tell you some of our thinking about what it means for children, families and for centre-based services. Reducing the number of national quality standards will certainly make the job easier for reg authorities to assess and rate services, and that's certainly a good thing. But is this what's good for children? We really don't understand the impact that reducing the number and the components of those areas is going to make, and we need much more time to make sure that we're doing the right thing. There has been significant change for this sector over recent years. Do we need more change just for the sake of change? Are we really making things better for children and families?
At Community Childcare, we do a lot of professional development and resourcing around the National Quality Standard. It seems a shame to waste all the professional learning and the knowledge that's been gathered so far by making a change too early.
This isn't something that I've heard community-based services asking for. Families need to know how a service is rated and assessed overall so that they can get a quick and clear picture about what their expectations can be of that service.
Families need to be able to compare services ratings when they're looking for a service for their child. The current rating system works, so why change it now?
5 years doesn't seem like a long time in terms of public policy, but it can be a really long time in the educational life of a child. Services change over this time. There can be changes of ownership, changes of staff, changes of leadership in the service, and changes of management. These things all have an impact on services over the 5 years. Let's make the process faster and easier for reg authorities and less onerous rather than making it less often.
At Community Childcare Cooperative, we do a lot of intensive service support. Sometimes services just lose their way. When they're rated lower than what they expected they would be, then that is often the impetus for them to improve their practice.
It's crazy that we have services out of scope in the National Quality Framework. It's important for children for us to have national consistency, but we also need to recognise that quality looks different in different communities, and we have to take into account the uniqueness of each service.
At Children's Services Central, we have been working with out-of-scope services or budget-based funded services to develop quality improvement plans. We do know that out-of-scope services want to come into the NQF. It just makes sense.
The National Quality Framework should be seen as an investment for children, families and for the future. It's not a cost. We need to see this resourced by governments.
I do a lot of work with community-based preschools in New South Wales. They have these tiny budgets. They manage to perform miracles with them. Something like doubling the annual fee may not seem like a great deal, but for these preschools it can have a huge impact. It would be a real shame for them to have to take money out of other budget areas, such as for children's materials.
We know that two of the most important aspects of the National Quality Framework are improving educator-to-child ratios and improving the qualifications of educators. The proposal to not replace a teacher for 3 months is a problematic one. If a child only spends 1 year in an education and care service and a quarter of that year is spent without a teacher, then we have a problem. It's great that the New South Wales Government has supported maintaining the higher standard that New South Wales already has. We want to see teachers replaced immediately.
When a teacher leaves a school, the teacher is replaced immediately. Why should it be any different for younger children?
There's a lot to absorb in this RIS, and we hope that this short video has helped you with some of your thinking. We may have missed some things, and this is certainly only our initial thoughts. We're going to put in a submission on behalf of members of Community Childcare, and we'd love to hear your thoughts and your thinking about what's proposed and what's best for children and families and your service. We want a great future for children, so let us know your thinking.